Hey everyone, it's Stephanie again, and you are tuned into the review of Married at First Sight, Season 14, Episode 4. Alright, before we get started, don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be the first to find out when I post these videos. Alright guys, I'm going to start this week with the person who irritated me the most. I usually save it for the end, but I'm just going to start off strong because it was hard to watch. Okay, so I'm gonna kick it off with Alyssa and Chris, and I like to tell you guys that I like to give both my personal and professional opinion each week. You know, sometimes it'll be personal, sometimes it'll be professional. This week it's personal. Okay, we're gonna use another P word for Alyssa. Pathetic. I think she is incredibly pathetic. If you guys watched the episode, you saw that Alyssa, pretty much disconnected with Chris almost immediately and literally has done her best to find reasons why this is not going to work. I mean, she has hung her hat on every rack that has been given to her. When she talked to his friends, she took what they said, and they didn't represent him well, and I said that, but she took what they said and found a way to make it relatable to her, even though she hadn't had that experience with him. She shut him out at the end of the conversation. Now, circling back in this episode, they had a conversation at like 2:30 in the morning where she is giving information, but she is not really, there's no experience to back it up. So it's like talking in circles. It's what are you talking about? She's really pathetic. She is the perfect example of who should not be on the show or who should not engage in this process. Even her speaking with him and saying that she needs to take it slow. That, like, when people start out in this process saying that, and it doesn't feel genuine, that's like a dead giveaway. That it's like, I'm gonna say I'm gonna take it slow so that you don't expect anything from me, and therefore I'm not accountable to do anything. It's not like I really like my husband, or he's great, or like I have vibed with this person, but I take it slow. It's not that energy. It's I take it slow, get out of my face, and I'm really just here for the drinks. Okay, I'm here to have a good time, not a long time, but a good time. Like Alyssa, I just really feel sorry for Chris. I don't think everybody has to be attracted to everybody, and I don't think that that's something that you can just toss away. Attraction isn't everything, but it is very significant. We're not going to pretend like it's not. You need to be attracted to your spouse in some capacity, and you need to kind of be able to have some sort of spark that you can build things on. But I don't know what she thought this was. It was maybe get married at first sight and then change your mind at first sight. But this is what she has done. And it really takes away the opportunity for somebody else who could have engaged in the process and actually given it a chance, as well as the person on the other side of that. You know, it's got to be really, really hard to put yourself in this space and to put yourself in a position to be deemed as not attractive enough, and attraction is a very personal thing, and you don't have to be attracted to the person, you don't have to immediately connect. But I think just a human experience, being nice. I think I said be nice a trillion times on the first review. Being nice is what's important here. Just treating the person like a person. Like, she acts like he disgusts her, and he hasn't done anything to offend her. He hasn't said anything. She acts like she is this prize. She is not a prize. She is a prize, a consolation prize, because whoever she ends up with, good luck, because she has a terrible attitude, and she doesn't treat people well, and she doesn't communicate well, and she's one of my most disliked brides that I've seen because of the way that she has gone about it. We've seen other people meet at the altar, not be attractive or attracted, and stumble through that, but still be nice enough. And listen, someone knows when you're not attractive, or someone knows when you're not attracted to them, is what I meant to say. And that dynamic can show itself, but there's still a way to treat a person like a human being, like someone who isn't disgusting to you. You're not that great, Alyssa, by the way. And your attitude really, really can make or break the way that you appear. And if she had a better attitude, then she would be so beautiful to a lot of people, I'm sure, but her attitude makes her look even worse. And she just doesn't go about things the right way. When they meet with each other's families, because this week they go to the honeymoon, of course, but they also had brunches with each other's families. She kind of sat there and played around with the words of how it was and how it wasn't, and wasn't authentic. And that she could have found something that would have helped. But the thing is, Alyssa has decided, and she decided at the aisle, and that's it. That's it. He's not done anything to offend her. Yes, they are a little different, but they weren't going to match you with yourself. So yes, the person that you're matched with has different interests and maybe does things differently. You're supposed to figure it out. You're supposed to kind of see, okay, well, how do we match? How do we anchor each other? How do we kind of prompt each other? Like, what works here? But she doesn't want to know. And if you're that person who is like, listen, if I see somebody at the end of the aisle and it's not what I want, I'm out. You need to continue to date in the real world and not put yourself in this position. He is very genuine and kind of trying to stumble through the dark here, because she's not really communicating that well. She's kind of making things up, and she is gaslighting him, having him question himself in terms of what's happening when it's so evident what's happening. And he says, hey, we didn't have such a great night. And I loved how her mother responded and how her friend responded and is trying to be supportive. But he can only do that. He can only give effort if it's worth it, if the other person's doing that. And I felt so sad for him when he said, hey, if she gives 1%, I'm going to jump in. But if it's 0, then I can't do anything. And I'm like, 1% is 0. but he wants this so bad, and he's committed to what he said he was committed to, that he's willing to take 1%. Like, he deserves somebody else, somebody who's going to be attracted to him, somebody who he is going to feel valued by or welcomed by. She's not his match. He's not his match. And it's early. Like, this is only episode 4, and it took 3 episodes to get through these weddings. But it's clearly not going to work out. And I just hate how it's going about. I don't like how nasty it feels. It just doesn't have to be that. It really doesn't. If this was a first date, they could have a cocktail and keep it moving. But it's not. They got married at first sight. But she knew who she was before she did this process, so she shouldn't have done it. I don't like how she's going about it, and I feel bad for him. I really do. Alyssa and Chris are like done, and we know that. We might see them for the next few episodes. I don't really watch the previews, but we know that they're done. And I really don't like this casting. I don't know how we could have avoided this, because of course we're gonna say, hey, didn't the experts pick up on it? Or why did they do this? But a lot of times people can present really well, and if there are no obvious red flags, then some people slip through the cracks, and she is one of those people. So that's my rant on Alyssa. I can't give her much time, but I think it just really sucks. If you guys know, and now I'm ranting, but if you guys noticed when they were sitting outside by the pool later on in the episode, she looked like she was Michael's wife. It was Jasmina, Michael, Alyssa, and then this space where Chris is sitting on the other side. If I was Jasmina, I'd be like, sweetie, you need to move over, okay? It's not the 3 of us, okay? It's just the 2 of us. Go deal with your spouse over there, or do whatever you're doing, but don't kind of group up to avoid your spouse. The way she's acting is as if, he has done something to her. She uses the term disrespect over and over, and it's a scapegoat. He hasn't disrespected her at all. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't known you enough to do anything. So the longest time they were together is probably that conversation or at the aisle. Like, they've not spent significant time together. So it's just really, really unfair, and it's hard to watch, It's hard to watch. So that is Alyssa and Chris. Next we have One and Katina. One and Katina are like my wild card couple. I feel like they are same in the sense that they are both excited for marriage, and they're excited to do this and they're ready for it. I don't really feel that they're ready for it. I think that they're ready for what they think it'll be, not what it actually is. And they both have like similar energy. In that way, I think their pairing is good, because to me, I could see them having dated in their 20s, but they would be like the couple that was on and off. It's like, guess, girl, we broke up. And you'd say, okay, you broke up again. Or Elijah one, I'm not dealing with her anymore. And then you walk into an apartment and here she is. They are like a beautiful toxic couple. Like, they give me toxic, and not that they're bad people, but energetically I feel like they are not really prepared for this ride. I think there's some maturity that needs to be there. I feel like it'll be a bumpy ride. I really do. Not that they don't want it. I think they genuinely want it. But it's kind of like when, not that they're little kids, but in my mind, I'm thinking like when we're young, we're little kids and we're like, I can't wait to be an adult, or we fight nap time. And it's like you get to be an adult and you realize nap time wasn't so bad, and I kind of want to revert back to that. And then so I feel like there will be some sort of like immaturity in them that can't rise above and like ride this wave. It's early, but that's just what I get when I see them. I don't necessarily think Katina's completely over the party scene or ready to do the party scene in a fashion that would be maybe beneficial to her marriage, unless they do it together. Elijah one, he is like a teapot already steaming. Like, he's always at the surface of wherever he is, which doesn't leave room for a lot of thought before action. And we see that in the conversation that he has with her friends at brunch. Obviously her male friend, Katina's male friend is kind of challenging him a little bit and just saying, listen, are you really here for this commitment? And they have this battle of the balls, okay, where he's trying to speak. Elijah Wan is trying to speak over this guy, and this guy's like, I'm not backing down. Like, this has been my girl for a minute. We don't know who you are. I'm not sold on you. I don't think I'd be sold on Elijah Wan either, with his, very striptease-esque whatever. I don't think that grandma needed to see your abs and your tattoos. Like, we all have fun during the garter thing, but I thought that was like a bit Magic Mike. But he's not yet sure about him, which why would he be? They met the night before. But I think when you are entering into a family in this way, it is important that you are transparent and you allow them to have their doubts, with respect though, because I think some people take it too far. But allow them to have their doubts, allow them to ask you questions, because they're passing along a treasured person to somebody that they don't know. And so instead of kind of humbling yourself, and even though he said, you can ask me whatever questions, and if it's BS, call me out on that, the energy is very much, I don't care about you. I don't care about what you think, and I don't have to prove myself to you. And you kind of do a little bit. Like, you kind of do, and humility goes a long way. You can still have boundaries and be humble, and I think Elijah one doesn't know that. I think maybe historically he had to be maybe aggressive, or that was his vibe in order for people to take him serious. I don't know what it is, but it's always like on guard, wherever that comes from. But you have to know when to tuck that in, because you've now married their friends, and it is important that they get to know you and they have their doubts, and that you give them room to have their doubts without feeling attacked. So that dynamic didn't go really well, but it took very little for us to see like Elijah Wan kind of want to attack him. And we see that in the conversation also with her, where he says, I don't really care, essentially. Like, he had some real bad responses about her friend, which I don't think was good either, because listen, at this point, she has known her friends more than she has known you. And they, right now, even though you're her husband, historically are more valuable to her than you. So kind of coming in saying things about them, and he could have said, hey, it didn't go that well, your friend was kind of on me. That would have been normal, but they are going to like spark bright, and I think they'll fizzle as well. Katina, she seems like a sweet girl, like I said, but I do think that she is not necessarily really ready for this experiment, but I think they will be enjoyable together, and I think that I think they would be a great couple to date, like, without all of this. Even in bed when they're talking and Elijah One's kind of like pressing her to trust him, and I'm your husband and I got you. It's like, no, you don't. It's okay that she has walls up. She has history. She has past bad experiences, which a lot of people do. It's okay that on night 2 or night 3, whatever it is, that I still have a wall up. Like, you have not earned the wall. Like, that trust that he's kind of saying, give it to me because you're my wife. Well, okay, you have to earn that trust. You don't just walk in and get it. And had they had a traditional courtship, then they would have gotten that along the way. So, she seems a little uncomfortable because she's kind of like, why are you pressing me? But I hope, we'll see. They'll be interesting to watch, needless to say. All right, so next we have Steve and Noi. So I really like Steve and Noi. I think that they're a sweet pairing. For me, they feel like the most down-to-earth pair, and the pair that actually, like, if you had like a housewarming and your husband invited his friends and you invited your friends and then they organically would meet, I feel like they have that energy of this very organic pairing. Noi's family really did not give Steve much room to answer any questions. It felt like a real inquisition, and that for me felt like more of an interrogation rather than setting boundaries, saying what we expect of you, sharing how we feel about apprehensions, yet still giving us room to get to know you and have like a genuine brunch. It was a lot. Grandma or mom is bringing up babies already. It's like, we know that that's like a thing you want, parents, but this is not the time, and it could have been like, do you see yourself having children? Is that something you'd like? Not like, give me a grandbaby. And Noi's I think brother, they refer to him as brother in the previous episode, who shows up as his alter ego, was really, really pressing him. And it goes from being like protective to just being obnoxious. And I think even if somebody is new and is trying to be open and prove themselves to you, I think it's annoying. Like, then it'll just be like, okay, like, you're going too far. You're hounding me about these things. And these are things that I need to have a conversation with my wife about before I have it with you. Although I understand the concerns, like that brunch to me felt obnoxious and it felt uncomfortable and it didn't feel welcoming. And we know Steve is not completely not doing anything. He's freelancing. There's a lot of people who freelance and make consistent income. So originally, I think the way that Steve was presented was like this nomad hobo, like jobless person. Whereas, okay, he had a career, or he has a career, but he had a job. He lost it due to the pandemic. That's a very common story. We're still in that. In terms of the space in the world, he's now freelancing. He had the time and space to do that. So now what is your plan? Like, let's get back to the plan. It's interesting that he's like, it depends on where we want to be. And I feel like Steve is a little too nomadic to have put himself in a situation that causes him to have to be rooted a little bit. It's cool that he was doing that. He was single. He can do whatever he wants. But when you're actively trying to get married at first sight, and then you're like, I don't know, it depends on where we want to be. And like, I want to be in Boston. That's where we got married yesterday. We married at first sight in Boston. And I'm not thinking of moving to wherever with you after not knowing you for no longer than 5 minutes. And, like, he needs to be a little more packaged so that he can present himself and not put this, well, where do you want to be? And what do you want to do? And what do you want to, like, Noi, I believe, knows what she wants. And she is, willing to be flexible, but she shouldn't have to answer, where do you want to be and what you're doing. no, I'm here, we got married at first sight. Like, I would hope that he would have something a little more rooted and saying, you know what, I've been freelancing, but after this process, my goal was to transition back into something more XYZ. I'm not hearing that. So that will continue to be a problem. I really enjoyed Noy's brunch with his parents. I thought that that's how it should be. It was genuine, it was easygoing. We see, you know, Noy's very emotional. We see how she got emotional genuinely, and it was received well. It just was very fluid and very comfortable, and I think that they got to know each other. And Steve's dad brought up, you know, him not having a job as well. I mean, everybody's talking about it. But their dynamic was, it just seemed more just genuine rather than Steve's experience. So of course, when they get back together, it's kind of like, yeah, you know, it was interesting, because that's what he could say. That's probably the best thing that he could say. But I still like them. I still think that they're a great pairing. So far, so good. So we'll see how they continue to grow. Next, we have Jasmina and Michael. So Jasmina and Michael, I continue to really enjoy them as well. I think that Michael's brunch with her stepmother as well as her sisters was great. I think that that was a very appropriate and healthy conversation to have with new in-laws in this situation, married at first sight, where they were able to share their experiences, share their apprehensions, ask appropriate questions, set their boundaries, give advice. You know, mom was kind of asking questions. Hey, where did you see your, you know, examples of marriage? I thought that that was an amazing question to have. Shared a little bit about what Jasmina has seen. I thought that that was such a healthy space. And mom shared her apprehension in a way where it would put him on guard to show and prove, which it is his job to show and prove at this point. But I thought that that was a great conversation to have. It gave them some one-on-one time with him and really see him now. The pomp and circumstance of the wedding is over, and we get to kind of really see each other in the light of day and ask questions and get to know your background just a little bit more and start building, you know, so every time they see each other, it'll feel, as long as it continues to go well, familiar and comfortable, and more transparency can happen. So I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed seeing Jasmina with his sisters. I thought they welcomed her really well. I thought she kind of fit right in. Like, if you saw all his sisters together and his wife, like, they can have a good time and they can enjoy themselves and get to know one another. You know, Big Sis said, like, just be nice to him because, you know, this is how he is, so just look out. I thought that that was good advice too. The only thing is, Jasmina is like kind of taking and running with the piece of advice or one of the things that one of the sisters said to her, in terms of how Michael tends to kind of prepare for the worst so that he is not affected. That is like a trauma response, okay? Michael's mother passed away. Michael's father, I don't believe, is living as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. Either way, Michael has trauma, and so what you start to do is start to prepare for the worst. And it's not something you want to actively do, but it is like survival. It is protective. It is a trauma response where it's like, let me prepare my mind, because the pain and agony of the unexpected, especially when you've had like several occasions of it, can be so overwhelming to where it's just easier to prepare for that, so that anything underneath that is like icing. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's great. That didn't happen. It's not necessarily the best thing, but it is something that is very common. And it's something I wish somebody could just interject there and like give Jasmina that piece, because she takes it and she's like, okay, I'm gonna have to prepare for like a glass half full guy. Instead of thinking about it a little differently or trying to understand where it's coming from and what it's related to. And so when Jasmina and Michael are having the conversation about, you know, there might be arguments because yada yada. And I think Michael brings up a great point. Instead of seeing or really hearing what he's saying, which is, yeah, I don't know how you'll respond. You don't know how I'll respond. So I expect that there will be some disagreements, blah, blah, blah. She takes it as this thing that, okay, his sisters have already warned me about it, and here he is. And so am I gonna have to deal with someone who does that or doesn't do that or responds that way all the time? If they can just like learn to communicate, and also like, and it's early, really get to know each other, then they can start to picture where it's coming from. And I think a tool that I use in my marriage, me and my husband use, and tools that we kind of talk about with friends, is like, as you really get to know each other and start to settle in your marriage, you will start to know the person so well that even when they do something that isn't the best, or that they respond some way and isn't the best, you at times, and a lot of the times, it's not happening frequently all the time, but just in life, you start to respond to them based on the intention of the person that you know, not necessarily what they're doing. If a person is experiencing grief or has been traumatized in some kind of way, there may be a time that they, walk in and, hey babe, and they respond in a particular way, or maybe we're watching something and they respond in a particular way. You as a spouse doesn't necessarily have to be like, what's wrong with you, or where's that coming from, or what that is. What is that? Overall, you can start to say, the intention of the person that I know, that I'm married to, is this. The type of person that I know that I'm married to is this. And this doesn't necessarily align with that. I know where this is coming from. I had a very significant loss in 2020. So when I'm not in the best space and it's off, it's not necessarily related to a particular thing, my husband knows something is going on here. And a lot of times it is. I have screensavers coming up on my TV on my house. So if a flash of a picture of someone comes on, it has thrown me off. He knows me. He knows that I'm not naturally like that. Once you get to know someone and you know some of their trauma or whatever they've gone through, you can respond more appropriately instead of making everything a thing, because everything is not a thing. And I think that time will teach them how to do that. Well, intentionality and time will teach them how to do that. But I think I like them. I mean, I don't think there's something that is so off-putting that we saw in this episode that they can't get through it, and it's very new. So still a green light for Jasmina and Michael. All right, last but not least, we have Lindsay and Mark. So I rode a roller coaster this episode with Lindsay and Mark, more so with Lindsay, because you guys know I'm not a huge fan. I think she's like really off-putting, and just, she's a lot. Her personality is a lot. And we've seen that kind of confirmed over and over by her father, her brother, her friends, and we are continuing to see that this episode. The highlights for Lindsay for me is her genuineness and trying to connect with his friends, and also being receptive to kind of the things that are going on with his mom, because marrying into that and now having to carry that as well, that's a lot of responsibility, because she doesn't sound like she's in the best space, and that will also fall on your spouse. So her genuine desire to help or to support, that really made me look at her very differently. It wasn't all like the gimmicks and her being funny and loud and kind of obnoxious. And when she said she was a hospice nurse for a very long time, I think it takes a very special person to be a hospice nurse. So I immediately saw her differently, because to really walk through the stages of grief and watching somebody pass and being that support and having to deal with the family and having to deal with just the constant death, that is what it is. End of life care, it takes a very special, patient, empathetic, nurturing person to do that. So that was a major thing that gave me like hope for Lindsay. What shot that down, what shot the hope down, what clouded and for me superseded in this episode, that was the situation that happened on the way to the honeymoon. Towards the end of the episode, I was back like not really feeling Lindsay. So basically the story is, and we didn't get to see it, but the story is that Lindsay kind of asked Elijah Wan Katina, I believe, if they spoke Spanish and they need to speak Spanish, and Elijah said, well, you know, I speak a little bit, I can understand a little bit, but I'm going to speak English. Puerto Rico, they speak English. They speak both Spanish and English because of, where it's located. It's just not only Spanish speaking, but I get it. Some people like to jump in and immerse themselves into the culture. Some people kind of do the best they can. I think as long as you're not ignorant and you go to another country and you're like, you guys need to do this, I think it's fine to just kind of like do your best. What I don't think is fine is telling other adults what to do. And I don't like that she picked Elijah. I don't know why she didn't pick Steve or why she didn't pick somebody else. I don't necessarily know why that was. What bothered me about that situation is based on Lindsay's personality that we have seen. It tends to be like very out, very loud, very sometimes antagonizing, and she may not realize it. Like we even saw after the wedding when she was laying on and I think she was a little tipsy, but she was like laying on the bench with Mark and talking about the monkeys and the cats and saying all types of things. And we've seen her on After Party where she has been she just throws stuff out. It can be a little off-putting for people. You don't know how people respond, and you need to get to know people before you just decide that you're going to interact with them in a certain way. Depending on how that was said, it didn't come off well, and maybe the redirect was not responsive to what should have been said next, and it just became this mess. What I don't like is that we just see Lindsay take zero accountability, go to the hotel room. She's crying. They take a different van back. She's crying. Nobody else told a different story. I believe Jasmina chimed in and maybe one other person chimed in, and it was more along the lines of what actually happened based on what Elijah said. And they even talk about it at the end of the episode when they're all sitting like at the pool and Mark comes down. We see Lindsay retreat and she just is crying. And what bothers me about that is that in her recant of what happened, there was never accountability of what happened. There was never even a recant on her side of what she did. And that gets on my nerves because I feel like she is probably somebody who likes to poke the bear, and that could be anything. It could be it could literally just be, seeing someone's not in a great mood and like joking with them, when there's like, hey, I'm not in the best space, just leave me alone. She seems like that person who doesn't take the cues, doesn't follow social cues, hears things but doesn't respond well because like she gets away with whatever, or maybe she's been enabled. And rather than being accountable, rather than saying, hey, this is what I did, this is what I said, maybe I should have just left it alone, maybe I shouldn't have said that, it's not my place to do that or say that or tell people what to do. It's how she was treated and putting herself in a position to feel that way, and almost designing the experience to where someone postured against her and she felt threatened. How did you feel threatened? How did you feel? There's like not one instance of this is the part that I played. It's almost like, here's what happened to me. How did you play a role, Lindsay? And I don't like when people use tears in a manipulative form. And that's what I feel like she did. Like she did something, they didn't respond well. She doesn't know how to deal with it because maybe where she's from, they enable her, or that's just Lindsay. And so she's not used to being challenged or having like a very firm boundary. So now she retreats and she cries and she's a victim. And I really don't do well with that very weak, victimized mentality when you probably might be the aggressor in some ways. And I think that using her tears is a way, and she may not even know she's doing that, but that's the first thing that came to mind, that she has probably used her tears in ways to avoid accepting consequences or accountability and responsibility for her behavior. That happens a lot. And there's a lot of negative consequences that can happen for people who just go about life that way. And poor Mark, because Mark really did well in terms of protecting his wife and coming to talk about it on her behalf and like kind of just, you know, try to wrap it up in a bow and apologize. That will get old if she doesn't get her act together, because I could see her showing out and Mark is always going to have to be the guy to pick it up, whoever she ends up with. This is, if we've watched, there's been a recurring theme in just 4 episodes about her, people saying that's Lindsay, or watch out for Lindsay, or she does this, or, you know, it's like funny, but it's really not. And we've seen how quickly that has already shown itself. Well, she tends to do this, or watch out, or she might tell you this. It's not acceptable, and no one has to deal with that. So I hope that she, like, it's not going to be an overnight change, because it never is an overnight change. But I hope that she starts to see some changes she can make, or I hope that maybe if it manifests in her marriage in a space that she really wants to work, because that's usually what it is. Like, marriage is a mirror, and also it's the time where it's like everybody else will love you for who you are, and you could say love it or leave it. But your spouse doesn't have, your spouse can leave it. So those are often the times that we're like, okay, I need to get my act together because this is not working in relationships. And then you start seeing that it hasn't been working in relationships. And then there's some awareness, self-reflection, and maybe some change. Maybe. We hope. That's ideal. But if it starts to manifest in her marriage with Mark, which it will, because this is how she is, then maybe I just want the light bulb to turn on, where it's like, you gotta do some things different, because everybody is not going to respond well to your shenanigans. All right, guys, that's my rant for this week. As always, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share. Let me know what you guys thought. I read them. I don't have time to respond, but I read them. I try to get in there every now and then nowadays. But I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next week. Everyone have a wonderful weekend.